You've heard of the 12 apostles, but do you know how they met their end? Their stories are filled with betrayal, persecution, and martyrdom. These were the closest followers of Jesus, men who walked beside him, witnessed his miracles, and spread his teachings across the world. But their devotion came at a cost, one that would lead most of them to violent and tragic deaths. For centuries, the fate of the apostles has been a subject of intrigue, faith, and historical debate. While they set out to spread the message of hope and salvation, their journey was met with hostility, torture, and execution. Some were crucified, others were beheaded, and one was even flayed alive. Their deaths were not just acts of cruelty, but statements of power by rulers who feared the rise of Christianity. But why did they suffer such gruesome fates? How did the most trusted disciples of Jesus meet such violent ends? And what does their martyrdom mean for the faith that continued to grow despite their sacrifices? In this video, we uncover the chilling details behind the deaths of each apostle, stories of unwavering faith in the face of torture, betrayal among their own, and the shocking executions that sealed their legacies. You may think you know their stories, but the truth behind their final moments is more brutal and heartbreaking than most realize. From Peter, who was crucified upside down, to Bartholomew, who endured an unspeakable fate, this is the untold story of the 12 apostles' tragic ends. Stay tuned, because history has never been this haunting. The 12 apostles were more than just followers of Jesus. They were his chosen messengers, handpicked to spread his teachings to the ends of the earth. These men came from different backgrounds: fishermen, tax collectors, and revolutionaries. Yet they were united by one purpose: to proclaim the message of salvation. After Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, the apostles faced a world that was often hostile to their faith. Charged with spreading Christianity, they traveled far beyond the safety of their homeland. Peter journeyed to Rome, Thomas to India, and Andrew to Greece. Bartholomew is said to have preached as far as Armenia, while Matthew spread the gospel in Ethiopia. Each of them carried the same mission: to bring the good news of Jesus Christ to people who had never heard it before. But their mission came with great danger. The Roman Empire, Jewish authorities, and even local rulers saw their teachings as a threat, and many of them were arrested, tortured, and ultimately executed for refusing to renounce their faith. They were not warriors wielding swords, yet they faced the might of empires with nothing but their words and unwavering belief. Why did they continue, knowing the risks? Because they believed their message was worth dying for. They had witnessed Jesus' miracles, his death, and his resurrection. To them, spreading his word was not an option. It was their divine calling. And so, one by one, they ventured into the unknown, facing persecution, betrayal, and death. Their courage and sacrifices would lay the foundation for what would become the world's largest religion. But their journey was far from easy, and as we'll see next, their endings were nothing short of tragic. Here's a compelling and dramatic breakdown of the tragic end of each. After Jesus' resurrection and ascension, the 12 apostles carried his message across the world. But their mission was dangerous, met with opposition from rulers, religious leaders, and those who saw Christianity as a threat. Most of them met brutal deaths, becoming martyrs for their faith. Let's explore their tragic fates, one by one. Peter, crucified upside down in Rome. Peter, the leader of the apostles, spread Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. He was arrested and sentenced to death under Emperor Nero. But Peter, feeling unworthy to die in the same manner as Jesus, requested to be crucified upside down. His death was slow and excruciating, a horrifying yet powerful testament to his devotion. Andrew, crucified on an X-shaped cross in Greece. Andrew, Peter's brother, took the gospel to Greece, where he angered the Roman governor by converting his wife. As punishment, he was tied, not nailed, to an X-shaped cross, prolonging his agony for 2 days. Instead of begging for mercy, Andrew preached from the cross until he took his final breath. James, son of Zebedee, beheaded by King Herod. James was the first apostle to be martyred. As Christianity grew, King Herod Agrippa saw it as a threat and ordered James's execution. He was beheaded by sword, an act that pleased Herod's allies. It is said that his accuser was so moved by James's unwavering faith that he converted and was executed alongside him. John, the only apostle to die naturally after persecution. John, known as the beloved disciple, faced intense persecution. Roman authorities attempted to kill him by boiling him in oil, but he miraculously survived. He was then exiled to the island of Patmos, where he wrote the book of Revelation. Unlike the others, John died of old age, perhaps the ultimate suffering, as he lived to see all his fellow apostles martyred. Philip, crucified or hanged upside down in Asia Minor. Philip preached in Phrygia, modern-day Turkey, where he angered local authorities. Some accounts say he was crucified upside down, while others claim he was impaled by iron hooks and left to die. His executioners intended his death to be slow and painful, yet Philip used his final moments to pray for his persecutors. Bartholomew, Nathaniel, flayed alive and beheaded in Armenia. Bartholomew's death is among the most gruesome. After converting the king of Armenia, he was captured by enraged priests who viewed him as a threat. They tortured him mercilessly, flaying his skin from his body before beheading him. His horrific martyrdom became one of the most infamous in Christian history. Thomas, speared to death in India. Thomas, famous for doubting Jesus' resurrection until he saw the wounds himself, traveled as far as India to spread the gospel. There, he gained many followers but also powerful enemies. He was speared to death by local soldiers, his blood staining the very ground where he had preached. Matthew, killed by a sword or spear in Ethiopia. Matthew, the former tax collector, took the gospel to Ethiopia, where he converted many. However, his teachings threatened the local king, who ordered his execution. Some accounts say he was stabbed to death with a sword, while others say he was speared. Either way, he died a martyr, refusing to renounce his faith. James, son of Alphaeus, stoned to death in Jerusalem. James, also called James the Less, was a key figure in the early church in Jerusalem. He was arrested by Jewish leaders who despised his teachings. They hurled stones at him until he collapsed, then struck him with a club to ensure he was dead. His crime? Preaching the name of Jesus. Thaddeus, Jude, killed with an axe in Persia. Thaddeus, also known as Jude, preached in Persia, where he angered the ruling class. In a brutal execution, he was hacked to death with an axe. His unwavering faith and refusal to deny Jesus cost him his life, but his legacy lived on in the writings attributed to him. Simon the Zealot, either crucified or sawed in half. Simon the Zealot's fate remains debated, but both accounts are horrific. Some believe he was crucified in Persia for preaching against idol worship. Others say he was sawed in half, one of the most brutal forms of execution. Either way, his commitment to spreading the gospel led him to a gruesome end. Judas Iscariot died by suicide after betraying Jesus. Judas's story is different from the rest. He betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, leading to his crucifixion. Overcome with guilt, Judas returned the money and hanged himself. In another account, his body fell, splitting open on the rocky ground. Unlike the other apostles, he did not die a martyr, but in despair, forever remembered for his betrayal. The deaths of the 12 apostles were not just acts of violence, they were testaments of faith, courage, and devotion. They spread Christianity knowing it could cost them everything. And yet, their sacrifices laid the foundation for a faith that would endure for centuries. Their stories may be tragic, but their legacies live on. Who among them do you find the most inspiring? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about early Christianity, stay tuned for our next video. The apostles knew that following Jesus would come at a cost, but they could never have imagined the brutality that awaited them. The world they preached in was not ready for their message. It was a world ruled by emperors, high priests, and kings who saw Christianity as a dangerous rebellion, one that threatened their power and control. The Roman Empire, in particular, saw this new faith as a threat. The apostles refused to worship the Roman gods or bow to Caesar, instead proclaiming that Jesus was the true king. To Rome, this was treason. As Christianity spread like wildfire, the empire responded with unimaginable cruelty, imprisoning, torturing, and executing those who refused to renounce their faith. But the persecution didn't just come from the Romans. The Jewish religious authorities who had opposed Jesus also viewed his followers as heretics. The apostles were beaten, stoned, and driven from their homes. Yet instead of silencing them, these brutal acts only fueled their determination. And then came the executions, crucifixions, beheadings, flayings, and torture beyond comprehension. Each apostle's death sent a chilling message. Following Christ meant suffering, but they embraced it willingly. Their courage and sacrifice inspired thousands, proving that their faith was worth dying for. Ironically, their martyrdom only strengthened Christianity. The more Rome and its allies tried to crush it, the more it spread. People saw the apostles' unwavering faith and were drawn to their message. Their blood became the seed of the church, ensuring that their mission did not die with them, but instead lived on for generations. The apostles may have met tragic ends, but their sacrifice was not in vain. Instead, their death became the foundation upon which Christianity was built. They were more than just followers of Jesus. They were the first to carry his message beyond Jerusalem, planting the seeds of faith that would grow into the world's largest religion. Their martyrdom shaped Christian beliefs in profound ways. They became symbols of unwavering faith, proving that devotion to Christ was worth any suffering. Their writings, teachings, and letters became the backbone of the New Testament, guiding generations of believers. The traditions of missionary work, preaching, and church leadership all trace back to the apostles' tireless efforts. Even today, their legacy endures. Across the world, cathedrals, churches, and relics honor their memory. St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City stands over what is believed to be the tomb of Peter. Santiago de Compostela in Spain is a pilgrimage site for those seeking to walk in the footsteps of St. James. The resting places of Thomas in India, Andrew in Scotland, and John in Ephesus continue to draw thousands of visitors, all seeking a connection to these men who gave everything for their faith. But their greatest legacy isn't in relics or churches. It's in the billions of Christians who continue to follow their teachings today. The apostles lived, preached, and died for their belief in Jesus, and because of their courage, their message did not die with them. It spread, flourished, and shaped the course of history. Their sacrifice echoes through time, reminding us that faith, even in the face of death, has the power to change the world. The tragic fates of the 12 apostles are some of the most harrowing stories in history. From Peter's brutal upside-down crucifixion to Bartholomew's horrifying execution by flaying, their deaths were not just acts of violence. They were declarations of faith. Each apostle faced unimaginable suffering, yet none of them turned away from their mission. They stood firm, knowing that their sacrifice would inspire generations to come. Now we turn it over to you. Which apostle's story shocked you the most? Was it Thomas, who was speared to death in India? Or perhaps Andrew, who preached from his cross for 2 days before taking his final breath? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support helps us create more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. And if you're curious about what was left out of the Bible, stay tuned for our next video. The Lost Gospels. What was hidden from the Bible? You won't want to miss this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.